Welcome to the NPE Domain 3, which is intervention recording for your NPE preparations. I'm Claire Farley and I'm going to walk you through the content today. Before I commence, I'd like to do an acknowledgement of country. I acknowledge the traditional custodians of the various lands on which we meet and the Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people listening to this recording. I pay my respects to elders past and present, and I recognise the diversity of Aboriginal peoples and their ongoing connections to the lands and waters of Australia. Just a little disclaimer on today. So this is not a substitute for your own preparations, and the content has been collated from a range of sources. For ethical reasons, again, this is not exam coaching. The exam curriculum which I'll present to you today is really where we suggest you spend your focus for your own studies. And finally, of course, this is a copyright and we ask that you conduct yourself ethically in this space. So this is a recording and this is a big pause button. So I remind you throughout the presentation, because it's not live to you, just hit pause when you need a break or go back. And if there's something on the screen, just stop and have a look at it. If you need more time than I'm giving you, please remember that button's right there for you. It's also a nice test of this presentation, see how your concentration goes for a long period of time, knowing the exam is 3.5 hours. So today I have a lot of hyperlinks included, and in those hyperlinks, I have listed them on the website page, as well as you can pause the recording and have a look at them as we go. So this segues nicely into the first link, which is the APRA NPE page. This is definitely a page where I would be suggesting you spend time, if you haven't already, to look at the content for the exam. There's a lot they have included for you to support your preparations. And all of today's content is included for you on this page. So just take your time, get orientated to the content, maybe save it to your favourites bar, and there you'll have your basis for NPE prep. There are two excellent books that I have used for most of today's presentation, and they are on the recommended reading list that you would find on that previous link. I know that one of them I've accessed through a library and the other was a purchase book. So there is also a book finder that Psychology Squared has created. So depending on whether you bought this as part of a bundle, that might be included. Just have a scroll through the document you've received this link with. Otherwise, it's a reasonably cheap item to purchase. So the next 4 slides have a lot of words, but bear with me. I'm going to talk you through them as I think it will really help you understand how this all comes together. So this first slide is what APRA have on their website, on the domain. So don't worry about the wording. Remember, you can pause, but I'm going to break this down so we understand how it all comes together. The next slide has the same content, but I've put in red, maroon. The colours is representing the content I'm picked out for today. So you can see there still is more content over and above what I covered today, but I've pretty much got most of it in. APRA also have this added on their website as well, and this is more content for you to know for this domain. So I've also added the colours in of what I've picked up for today's presentation. Then I've collated it into this, so a nice list. So kind of in the order they've had, I've collated all those into bullet points. So I've made 51 bullet points for you for today that I'm going to work through each one of these individually and provide you with details on it. However, I have shuffled it around to make more sense for today, so we're not jumping around too much. And this is the structure, and I'm going to bring this up frequently, and as we complete one, we're going to put a line through it so we can have some satisfaction of how we're going, and you can also see what we've covered. What to know? This is a huge topic, and as you will see by the previous slide, there were 51 bullet points that I had listed, and really each of those topics, so let me just go back. So each of those topics, I think there's probably a book on each one alone. You know, when we think about CBT, there's probably even a year course you could do on it. One of the other bullet points on the screen towards the bottom right You'll find on things like health promotion, career, moving up, there's organisational psych, which has a whole master's. Even for family therapy, there's a whole master's on family therapy. So there's a lot to know. But the question will be how much we need to deep dive, and that's what we'll go through together. So really, it's just about making a plan and starting to understand the content of the exam. So things to be might be like CBT, you might already have a good handle on that, but know nothing on IPT. So then that will help you structure what you need to do for the learning. This little rabbit is about where to stop your learning. So we call it rabbit holes. So short of doing a 6-month course or a master's degree on each topic, you just need to work how far down that rabbit hole you need to go. Great to talk to your supervisors about it too. And really, if you're a month or so out of sitting the exam, you're just going to need to manage your time on each topic. If you're several months out, I'd encourage you to savor the taste on each of these, do a deeper dive. And for me personally, I found that the NPE really felt like a good push of my own personal learning, and I learned a lot more through the process. And I think too, the other one I suggest is that if you come across, say, like schema therapy or IFS or EMDR in your study preparations, then things that aren't showing on the APRA list. So just pause those, flag them for later, and post your NPE, do some more exploration. All right, foundational understanding. So today is really setting you up with that foundational understanding. And then from there, you'll explore for yourself what more information you need to look at. So if you're looking at something I've put on the screen and you're thinking, hurry up, Claire, I know this, that's a great aha moment for you that you've really got the knowledge. And if there's topics you know a little about, then I've got some links I'm going to provide on each topic. And it might have been something that you raised with supervision to really explore that as well. Applied knowledge. So I don't think APRA needs you to know everything on every topic, but they're also not after you having just a basic level of knowledge. So the question was, what is a negative automatic thought? I think we're beyond that. I think that's the things they would expect you to know. So the questions for the exam probably are more something like, how would you discuss negative automatic thoughts with a client who has depressive symptoms using CBT? And maybe even how would you include this as part of your treatment plan? And perhaps even when in your treatment plan, you might include discussions about it. Or what are the implications of discussing these things with the client? So it's that additional level of knowledge past what core components of the therapy are. Nothing like a bit of memory reminders. So really the exam is testing your memory. So you learn something, you need to hold it in your memory, and the course is encoding and store it. And then the retrieval process under pressure in the exam is when you need to have that knowledge. So I encourage you today to think about what we're doing. We're giving you a visual and a verbal presentation, and verbal being the weakest memory. Think about how you're going to increase this upon yourself. So I encourage you to pause me, and as you go out and get a coffee or a water, and you pass the cat, the dog, or someone in the house, and they say, how's it going? Tell them what you learned. Say, did you know that IPT has a thing called a sick roll and how that might work? So that's encouraging your mind to store the information and then to retrieve it. I think too, think about when we're in a stress situation, how our working memory might be challenged and how you are going to strengthen that ability in the exam environment. Think too when we're nervous, how we relax. And again, remember, it's just not just the knowledge, it's also the applied knowledge. So to help with some scope for today, really what we're just doing is bringing together the exam curriculum, expanding it out for your learning and creating some nice foundational skills on each of those topics. And it's really a kickstart for your further learning and deeper diving into each subject. One of the components on that list was psychopharmacology, which is part of this intervention domain, but it's not included in today. So we have done a separate recording on that topic. So again, subject to what you purchased for this recording, it'll either be included or it may be a separate purchase for you. The exam, just a reminder that there's 45 questions from this section, and that's 30%. And really it's about overstudying for this area. So I had 51 bullet points just on that slide. So you have no idea what they're going to ask you. So there is a lot more you need to learn. And I think too, just think back, you've already done exams through uni. Think about how you went, what went well for you, the preparation before, even the week before, on the day, and even really after the exam too, because it's quite a I found personally a stressful experience. All right, to warm us up. So there are 7 questions I have coming, and they're just to give you an idea on perhaps how you go at answering some questions. So as I say on the screen, pause me. I'm not going to read it for you. It's good practice to learn to read a question. I encourage you to slow down yourself, check on your breathing. If you are sitting at home for the exam, in particular, the next bullet point there for you, practice not reading out loud or moving your eyes. So I did get told off in my exam for reading a question out loud to myself. And some might be a discussion based, and really they're not based on exam questions. They're made up examples just to sort of get a little bit of a step into this space. So here we go. Sorry, there we are. So just work through the question, pause me, and then I'll go through the answer. Okay. So before we jump to the answer, I think it's important that we break down the question.